hunt. They had a blast. Contracts.
That's what it is.
Usually not. Stephanie is super tired. They just got up from daycare. So then she saw a bunch of people. So she won't go to sleep, but also.
I'm just saying that because I need to take a taxi so that this
Jamal, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, doing well, man.
Good to see you.
Too.
Should be. Testing. Doing good yourself?
Done. No, I think these are just done. I think we can bring these back to Lisa. Back to her in a big old stack, though. We're ready. The hush fell over the crowd, so I think we're ready.
Michael, are we ready? Yeah, we're ready. All right. I'll call the meeting to order. And board member Aguilar will be attending telephonically. And Superintendent Robert will not be joining us today. But we'll go ahead and get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Alright. We have a few celebrations from the district. I think was going to present.
I was gonna do with part of my, with my whole presentation.
Oh,
Is that okay?
yeah, go for it, yes.
Are we ready for that?
Yes.
Ruby. Okay. Yes, hello, thank you. Okay. All right, I'm gonna put that in slideshow mode. Okay. Thank you for having me here tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about iSchool with all of you. It's just, been a pleasure for all of us. And a lot of our staff is here, so I appreciate your being here as well, too. All right. And is it not working? Nope, hold on. Too much. Okay, so one of the things that we're most proud about with iSchool is that it's continuous education. It's 24/7, basically, that our kids have access to high-quality education and a fantastic staff. So sometimes people have come to iSchool for all different reasons. They've come because of health concerns. They've come because they're in transition, because they're moving with custody issues, people's jobs. We have students that have lived all over the place and have remained with us in iSchool. And so we're really proud of the fact that those kids remain in Osborne. We've kept Osborne kids here because we've had this, this ability to do this. Thanks. Okay, I'm just going to share with you some numbers, all right? 56, the number of students receiving intervention services from our intervention team. One that might surprise you, surprised us, 100% of third graders who came in for state testing. Every single one came in to the district office for state testing. 6 Nearpod certified educators in iSchool. There are 10 in the whole district and 6 of them are in iSchool. Do you guys remember what Gaggle is?
I do not.
Gaggle does those alerts for kids if they're being unsafe or if they're using, bad language or different things like that. It combs through their drive, and it does that. We've only had one all year long, and it was actually kind of a miscue. It was a student working on an assignment. Okay, we have a lot of students. Our students do a lot with digital citizenship, and I think we really feel that that's helped them with behavior issues and with, how to maintain proper conduct online with their peers and with their teachers. 5,914 Nearpods launched in iSchool. Those are teacher-led lessons as well as student-independent lessons that they've done. 44, the number of home visits that I can account for that I've done this year with my students and families. That's been a big part of iSchool, is that personal touch. 29 is the number of zip codes that encompasses our iSchool family. We have 32% of our students that are out-of-district students.
Are there any students out of the state?
Yes, there are.
Okay.
They're out of the country, actually. So we have students all over the place.
Okay.
For some periods of time, for longer periods of time, it depends on what the family, needs and what they're doing. They take their laptop and their hotspot, and they're still with us every day. 3, the number of students receiving a behavior referral. As you can imagine, we don't have a lot of behavior issues because students are online. However, sometimes there are kids, who need a redirection, and if they don't follow that redirection, then I've had to make some phone calls, and that's very rarely does that happen. We have a nice partnership with our parents, and that helps us to keep these kids safe where they need to be and being appropriate. 60,857 math puzzles completed with ST Math. That's 88,544 minutes of students working on math problems in ST Math. That's just K through 3rd grade. That's 1,476 hours of math problem solving just for the program. That doesn't include math instruction in the class. iExcel, that is our upper grade math program. So this is 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. They have solved 190,596 problems. That is 1,777 hours of math problem solving and 3,677 math skills mastered by those students. Lexia, our online reading program, we have Core 5 and we have Power Up, which you may be familiar with some of your kids that use these programs. 1,888 skills completed. That's 449 units gained per student. 47% of all iSchoolers are working at or above grade level in this reading program. For those that are meeting their required number of minutes, 77% of our students are working at or above grade level, which really goes to show you that fidelity to these programs is important and it really helps move kids along. We have been celebrating their progress all year long, and so far we have given out 381 certificates to our iSchoolers from Lexia. I just wanted to show you kind of what does iSchool look like sometimes. We're very dedicated to the things that Osborne's dedicated to, and one of those is thinking maps. So this is an example just from today of a kindergarten reading recall, where they read a story and then they had to recall, and then they drop and drag in here. This is a Jamboard, which is a Google product, things that can be recycled. This is an example from 1st grade. This is in Nearpod, and this is a tree map where they are word sorting based on some phonics skills. This is 2nd grade observational comment writing. This is the first part is a brainstorm, which is a circle map, and then they move into a tree map, and then they write sentences. This is from our Right from the Beginning program, which all of our teachers have been trained in and are using every day. So students will see an image, they will brainstorm about that image based on the questions that the teacher is posing, then they will use that to create a tree map, and then they will use that to create sentences. And that's another Jamboard. This is an example of 4th grade. They were using primary sources, and they were using the strategy See, Think, and Wonder to respond to a primary source. This is 6th grade using a Mathagon program where they were graphing equations in 6th grade. We try to reach out and find as many different ways to make the education as engaging as possible, and there's so many great tools out there for us to use. So you can imagine, you know, that our kids are having a lot of great resources at their fingertips. So how does all that happen? It happens because I happen to, and I know I'm biased, have the very best staff. They are an excellent bunch of people. They're dead serious, as you can see from this picture. This is our staff photograph. So we've really embraced this idea that, you know, I hear a lot about back to the way it was, or, you know, getting back to school, and I get that for some people, but for some people, that's not what they need or what they want, and our teachers have really embraced that. They've been completely flexible, and they have just really risen to the top. So this is my great bunch. 194 collective years of teaching experience in this picture. Yes, ma'am.
Which one of them teaches the kids to dance
Probably all do.
all together?
Uh-huh. Yep. Okay. So I would like to also, she was in the other picture, popping out of the screen, but Terry, Miss Jaramillo, where is she? Come on up here. May, can you bring me a bouquet of flowers? This lady, I could not exist without. She is the voice of iSchool. She is the person that answers the phone that every parent talks to. Our entire staff just wants to say thank you. You know, we couldn't be in better hands than to have Terry leading the ship with us. Doing what she does every day, communicating with our parents, making them feel comfortable. Terry's learned a tremendous amount of tech skills this year. Lots of spreadsheets. Besides all her other responsibilities, she knows that the parents need help sometimes, and we don't want to have to transfer them. I mean, we transfer people to IT and we talk to them when we need to, but Terry has learned how to log on to Google Classroom, get kids on their Chromebooks, troubleshoot when problems are happening, and we can't say enough about how important she is to the success of our school.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so how this happens is my fantastic team of teachers as well, too. Ms. Villa is a kindergarten teacher, and Liz is not here today? Not here today. Liz has 22 years in education. She's bilingual, which we felt was really important. I try to get as many bilingual people on my staff as possible so we could communicate effectively with the majority of our families. That's the language that, if they don't speak English, that's the language that they speak. She came with us last year with 40 kindergarten students in her class. So she went through all of that. This year, it's not quite such a hefty load. In kindergarten, Ms. V and I also both had extreme personal losses. I lost my mother the second day of school. She lost her father during the first semester. And so it's been an adventure for all of us. Ms. Villa is not returning next year. She's seeking employment elsewhere. Miss Davy is a 26-year teacher. She attended Camp Plug and Play. She came to us as a Thinking Map certified teacher, and she's also bilingual. She works with our first grade scholars and does an excellent job with them every day. And helping out is Hiseli Garza. She was a student teacher in iSchool, and then we were able to hire her as an instructional assistant. And she works between kindergarten and first grade, helping support those classrooms. In second grade, we have Miss Fletcher. She has 4 years of teaching experience, but a multitude of experiences outside of teaching that make her an absolute superstar. She is not bilingual, she's trilingual, because she also knows sign language. So she's able to incorporate that into her classroom, and her students really appreciate that. She's slated to attend Conscious Discipline week-long training this summer, and she's also teaching iSchool summer school for us. Miss Dodge, she's here tonight. She has 11 years of teaching experience. She is also bilingual, and she has been selected to go to Brazil on the Fulbright exchange. So we're extremely proud of her and all that she's done to help us with our third graders this year in iSchool, and she was a part of iSchool last year as well, too. Okay, moving up in the grades, we have Miss Starren. Miss Starren has 22 years of teaching experience. She has taught at many different schools within the district. Her son is also an iSchooler. He's here too. She is bilingual, and although she doesn't like to use it all the time, I have had to call on her and rely on her, and she always jumps in and does her best, and the parents are so appreciative. So I appreciate that all the time. She attended the week-long training of conscious discipline for us last year, and she is also teaching iSchool summer school. Miss Wright, who's here, Miss Wright is a has 4 years of teaching experience. She is SPED certified, and that's been fantastic to have that background. She has hosted student teacher for us. She is recently being selected for the inaugural Osborne Leadership Academy, so kudos to her for being a part of that inaugural class. She's finishing her master's degree in educational administration from GCU in May, and she is also teaching summer school for us. Mr. Brian Hendricks is a 6th grade math teacher with 8 years of experience. He will be attending Camp Plug and Play. I've said it twice. It's a really interesting summer workshop for online education. And he partners with Miss Moreno, who teaches ELA. She's finishing her master's degree in multilingual education in May, has had 3 years, and dear, sweet Cindy has not been able to finish a year in the same spot. She was pulled last year from iSchool. You had 100 students, did you not? You and Rebecca? 100 6th graders last year, the 2 girls split in iSchool. This year, she and Brian split about 42 kids, so it's much more manageable and a better deal for us this year and for her. Miss Moreno will be teaching 3rd grade dual language at Encanto next year. I have a special education team that consists of Miss Jensen, who teaches the class, and her instructional assistant, Mr. Romo. And Mr. Mike has been a fantastic addition. There will not be self-contained special education in iSchool next year, so neither one of them will be continuing with us. We will have resource, and I think Miss Maya has 22 students on her roster. She is supported by Mr. Ron, who is an instructional assistant with us, who will be continuing with us again next year in intervention. Miss Maya, Miss Orozco, was a student teacher. She finished her student teaching, and then she took on the role of resource teacher for us in iSchool. And she's led many IEPs and has done a fantastic job reaching out and serving all the students, and has been here for the last 2 weeks with me testing as all the students come through. So she can help them feel comfortable in the testing environment, receiving all their accommodations, and getting the support that they need. And then I also am lucky enough to have an intervention team. It's led by Mrs. Holderman, and she is new to us, but she has 29 years of experience. She taught formerly in Roosevelt, and she's come on as our MTSS specialist. And not only is she doing that job as an MTSS specialist in leading the team and looking at data and in doing all the testing for FastBridge, et cetera, but she also leads this group and does intervention with students as well. So these are the 3 that help serve all those 56 students that get intervention. Miss Barrera came to us from Longview, and she is also bilingual. She has about 4 years of experience. She was so great this year. She started out as a resource teacher. And then when Miss Villa's father died, she stepped in as a kindergarten teacher. And then after that, she became an interventionist. So she's worn several hats this year and has been super flexible, which is kind of the name of the game for us in iSchool. She will also be teaching iSchool summer school, and Mr. Wiesinger has 13 years of experience, and he is our upper grade interventionist, and he's also helped us curate our special areas choice boards. He has an art background, and that's been really beneficial for us as well too. So we appreciate all of these teachers that have been helping serve our students. I want to share with you just a little bit in terms of intervention. Our kids are making great growth in their intervention groups. So they get pulled to a separate breakout room, and sometimes it's maybe 20 minutes 4 times a week, or it's half an hour 4 times a week, depends on what the students need. They work on skills. They are reading, increasing their words per minute, increasing their fluency, reading decodable sentences, and this is kindergarten through up through 6th grade that we pull students to work with them. So iSchool wouldn't exist without a lot of love and cooperation from everybody around us. So I just wanted to make sure that I had the opportunity to say thank you, not only to my fantastic staff, but also to the other departments that really help us out and the people that help us out. The first of which I would have to say is curriculum. Like I mentioned, you know, my mom passed on the 2nd day of school, so the beginning of the school year was rough. And in order for me to be able to attend to those things, Abby and curriculum stepped in to help support my master teacher and the rest of our staff in making sure everything got off the ground smoothly. Also, Abby meets with me pretty much weekly, and Kathy has been a big part of our leadership team, coming to our cluster meetings and supporting us in that way as well too. We couldn't do what we do without the technology department. So big kudos to IT. Thank you so much. Obviously, this has to work every day, all day, you know, or we don't have school. So what they do to help support us is fantastic. And they're super responsive. They talk to our families, talk to us. We've been able to get hotspots out. You know, and we couldn't be more thankful for that support. It really means the world to us. Child nutrition, they feed our kids when they come in for testing. So the last 2 weeks, they've been wheeling over meals from Clarendon and helping support our kids in that way. Our kids also have that opportunity available to them. Not very many of them take that, but they do have that opportunity to pick up meals as well for the week. Maintenance sets up the rooms for us. All the principals at the other schools have been cooperative. We've had to be really flexible with a lot of kids and families' needs. When custody issues come up, when people are facing transition, when they are have abrupt changes, when there's you know, a mom ends up in a shelter perhaps, and then she needs, you know, what she needs. We talk and we get the students what they need and the families what they need, and I'm really appreciative of all of their support as well too. And that goes along with their front office staff as well. And then I'd also like to have a special shout out to 2 of our former iSchool teachers that are in Canto, Ashley Getter, Allison Rollins, because they helped work on our digital citizenship lessons, which we use. They were a part of our iSchool for last year, and we appreciate their help with that. All right, I'm gonna move on to the points of pride. How am I doing? Yikes, okay. So the first point of pride goes to this young lady. Who is that? Miss Starren, come on up. Jennifer has, like I said earlier, has taught in the district for a long time, has done many, many different things. One thing that I want to tell you before I read some things that our parents said was that, you know, May and I were here, Miss Maya, we just did our state testing. And it was incredible, the community that this lady has built online. Those kids were so cooperative, so respectful of each other. They stayed quiet the entire time during testing, not a peep. They waited for their peers to get finished. They were encouraging. They really dug into the test. They tried their hardest. And that is just a testament to the community that Miss Starren has built within her classroom. So it doesn't matter if it's, you know, a box that big. She built great big community within her classroom. We opened up our points of pride to all of our families as well, so several of the parents wrote in. Jennifer has been an asset in helping my daughter through her reluctance to participate in school. She has worked with me to motivate my daughter and get her involved in classroom activities. I see a great deal of improvement, and I'm very grateful for her assistance. Ms. Starren keeps me and my husband in the loop regarding our son's process. She always lets us know if he's missing any work. During conferences, she provides a lot of explanation with regards to what he's learning and specific things he can do to improve. Ms. Starren is amazing. She's the best with all the kiddos. She always has such high energy. We should always appreciate teachers for their effort, but she goes that extra mile for us. She's patient. She makes sure her students are always on point. She shows the right discipline with the students and the right amount of fun, and she's dedicated and makes sure they succeed in the classroom. Miss Darren's been extremely helpful with our transition that was halfway through the school year. It wouldn't have gone as smoothly without her help. She's been understanding and patient with us with all we've been through. So for that and for so many other reasons, we want to say thank you. You are a point of pride. Pin for you. And
And it is true, all the teachers have the kids dancing, not just me.
yes. We're all dancing. Thank you. All right, our next point of pride has two little prideful people with her tonight. That is Miss Fletcher. Miss Fletcher, come on up. Yes, I didn't think we were going to make it here tonight. We were on an IEP meeting. Miss Fletcher, like I said, has 4 years of teaching experience, but a wealth of experience doing many other things, and she brings all of that into the classroom. I don't have enough words. I could say I love you, not in a creepy way, right? And you know what I mean. So I'm just going to read some things that her parents have said. Miss Fletcher goes above and beyond for her second grade students. They are greeted daily with her energetic and motivating spirit. She keeps them engaged through the use of interactive learning apps, as well as facilitating thoughtful discussions through her collaborative small groups. She's developed a classroom environment that's inviting and encouraging for all learners to feel safe, to take risks, to share ideas, and to celebrate each other. And it's true, we see it every day. It's an amazing group of kids led by an amazing teacher. This is someone who went back in person and wrote into me. To start and end the day with Miss Fletcher was magical. Her students feel her love for teaching each and every day. She goes above and beyond to connect with the students and with the families. The impact she's had on my daughter was huge. We cried when we had to go back to in-person school because Miss Fletcher is a teacher that when you come across, you will never forget. Her positive voice and encouraging words and hard work has helped my daughter to grow academically and socially, and we can't thank her enough. And it goes on and on and on. We are so grateful to have her as a part of our high school team and, as a part of our Ocelot family. You're the best. Okay, hold on. Pin and certificate for you. You already left. Thank you. You are welcome. Thank you. All right. So you might be wondering, Crossley, didn't you forget somebody? No, I did not. Miss Navarez, come on up. All right. Miss Navarez is, remember I said how I said I couldn't live without Terry? Like, I can't. But I also could not live without May. May is the best. She is a fantastic master teacher. She was a fantastic teacher. I don't know how she hasn't been given every accolade there ever was, quite frankly. She is so knowledgeable. She is our part-time master teacher because her other job is ed tech for the entire district, okay? She wears a lot of hats, but she is so dedicated. She's a fantastic coach. She meets with our teachers and coaches them on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. She provides very consistent, on-point, job-embedded professional development every Wednesday and all days of the week when she meets with our teachers. She's so great. She has brought all of her experience and love of technology to our iSchool staff and have helped all of them. Some were, less savvy than others coming in, and they all are experts in what they do right now. She is a Nearpod wizard. Seriously, she could, work for and run many of those companies, I'm sure. She shows compassion and caring for all of her teachers, and she pushes them the right amount. They know they're loved and supported. That's why they take risks and grow. And that's what we're all about at iSchool. So May embodies that spirit truly. I couldn't ask for a better staff, and I couldn't ask for a better leader for all of my teachers. Appreciate you so much. And that is all I have.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. It is impressive to think that what started out as an emergency response 2 years ago has developed to this, and the professionalism and the passion that you and your team are present is remarkable. So thank you. We're lucky to have this amazing group of professionals here for our students.
Thank you. I agree. You know, this has been a real, it wasn't what anybody expected, but they have really risen to the occasion, and they are providing fantastic experiences for the people that continue to choose this, and we're glad that they're there for them.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Another celebration is a recognition to the Osborne Middle School Band. What was that? Okay, we have more. Okay. John, come on up.
Thank you all for inviting us out here today. We wanted to recognize two of our folks. The first one is Santoy Prather. She's been with us for 10 years as a bus attendant. She started, actually when she came to us, she was working in one of the daycares down by St. Gregory's. So whenever we can net somebody from a daycare, they always make the best bus attendants. She has been steadfast, ready, fair, kind of one of those people who's very quiet, but always very fair and very honest with the children. The kids respect her. She can get on any route and do just amazing things. And she truly is just the face of a district. And like I say, she's been here 10 years, kind of one of those that works behind the scenes. She never complains, never has a bad day. She's always smiling. The kids just love her to death. So I got to see her in action a couple weeks ago. We had an issue on one of the buses, and to actually watch her deal with the situation going on, very professional. The kids responded well to her. And she, you know, they get into some tough situations with these kids, and she never lets it get the better of her. So they both, actually both my people start at 6 in the morning, so they won't be here tonight, unfortunately. But we'll do another thank you for them back in the maintenance area. So that's Santoy, and so she's our transportation point of pride. The second person is Alfredo Medina. He's been with us 3 years. He started off as a crossing guard, came to us as a referral from Victor, who used to work in Encanto Clarendon, and he was just looking for something to do, and he came in as a crossing guard, stepped in, again, did all the work that we needed. We had a position open up as a bus attendant. He jumped on the buses and the vans, never complains, did an amazing job, started driving the vans, and shortly thereafter started helping maintenance and worked his way up through there, and he is just an amazing individual. Whether it's at his school, he steps right in, does all the work. You never have to tell him what to do. The man is just on fire running around. Unfortunately, we will be losing him this summer. He's going to Mexico to take care of a family member, and hopefully he'll return to us. He really is part of the Osborne, you know, pride that we seek out. He's just one of those individuals you never have to tell what to do. It's already done. And he's just full of energy, full of pride. You couldn't ask for a better employee or a better person. I mean, he's just amazing. So he is Alfredo Medina. So he is our maintenance point of pride.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Please pass along our
Yes.
our gratitude for their service.
Definitely. Thank you very much.
And I caught up with the program here, so yes.
Good evening, President Flamand, good governing board members. Today, I would like to introduce our help desk amazing technician. His name is Zach Jensen. He's one of our members, technology department. I would just like to read some of what people said about him and nominate him for Point of Pride. It's a blessing to have Zach working at Osborne as our help desk support technician for almost 2 years. All staff and many parents know him and appreciate his support. He worked hard during COVID, supporting our parents and high school at their homes. He is passionate about his work. I personally sometimes ask him to leave work. He punch his time and he keep working. I was like, you can't do that. But he just say, I want to make sure people are all set for tomorrow, make sure the teachers are ready. So he loves his work. He makes sure things are ready for teachers before starting classes. He loves to provide solutions to issues. And he's professional, creative, hardworking, dedicated, friendly, and trustworthy. And also, another person said Zach deserved the Point of Pride because he's supportive to all our technology need. District-wide, he always willing to go above and beyond to ensure that we have access to all the technology need and how to troubleshoot them. He always smile, he's positive, and he's always willing to help. He's knowledgeable. He take his job and work seriously. He shares the knowledge that with others. He takes his work very, he's very dedicated. Zach is an asset to Osborne, is a joy to work with. Like many employees, we are proud to nominate him to be the Osborne Point of Pride. Thank you, Zach.
There you are. I am thrilled to honor and recognize this wonderful individual. I'm putting a challenge for all of you, though. There's a theme in these stories that I will be reading, so at the end I will pause to see if you've picked up on the theme. So Jennifer Page is our wonderful admin assistant for our teaching and learning department, and so I have several kind words to read. Again, listen for the theme. Jennifer is committed to serving the needs of all Osborne staff and students. She spends countless hours ordering curriculum materials and resources all year, processing POs, addendums, and PARs. Also, I appreciate her taking the time to show me a few tricks to be more efficient. She is a spreadsheet whiz, and I've learned so much from her. Jennifer is amazing. She does it all. If you need something, just ask, and it is done. She has a vast amount of knowledge on any number of topics. She deals with district staff at all levels. She's setting up summer school and has a spreadsheet to cover every single aspect. She goes out of her way to help new staff have a great start in our district. She jumps in to help out wherever needed. Jennifer is a true point of pride for our district. Everyone knows her, and she knows everyone. She goes out of her way to make sure everyone has what they need, and she is often the first person people call with a question or a need. She is a spreadsheet master and could teach us all a few tricks, but mostly she keeps us organized, efficient, and forward-thinking. She is the glue that holds us all together, and without her, we would all be lost. Jennifer, thank you for being an Osborne Point of Pride. And the theme is spreadsheets. You got it. So, thank you for all your spreadsheets and for being you. We appreciate you. Yes. Oh, and the supper. Do you have enough hands? And I can cover the final celebration, which is to recognize our wonderful Osborne Middle School band students who, there were 20 of them who participated in the Greater Phoenix Honor Band this past weekend at Camelback High School. They have done such an amazing job. The wonderful Julia Georges has led them throughout this endeavor, and she was so proud to report how amazing they did at rehearsals, and I heard they did a spectacular job at the concert. So we're so proud of them and would like to celebrate them.
That's
So,
amazing.
thank you.
And I hear are there any students here from the band? Oh. Well, thank you very much. I actually attended that concert. My son performed, and it was a wonderful experience. At least from what I gathered through his eyes and his experience. So, um, I appreciate the fact that at Osborne we value the arts and music education as a priority. So, thank you very much. Thank you to all our recipients. You guys are what makes Osborne amazing. So thank you very much. We will take a short recess and reconvene at 6:18. Thank you. I saw the first part of like high school. Okay, high school.
And I was just thinking, oh, I should have written that up.
Oh man, does it? Oh man, it seems kind of fun to me. uh, yeah.
Yes.
I'm signing my last one right now.
Real quick on this one though. Just want to make sure. Oh, just want to make sure. I won't be able to sign where it's supposed to sign, but it's still.
I think I got them all.
Sign. I'm sure should be fine, but.
Fine. Yeah, no problem. Sure. Happy to. At least 3 minimum. 5 max.
She would be a wonderful person, so I don't know if you could have her as a backup or you know what I mean? Because I think she would be open to it and then
Absolutely. Thank you. Oh yeah. I saw her floating around. There you go.
Hi, good, you?
Good, doing well, doing well. How's the gig?
Huh?
How's the new job? Not so new anymore.
Yeah, it's going. It is going.
Hope for more, hopefully.
Depends on the day. Definitely more. Definitely more. Yeah, yeah. I didn't know that part. I was like, oh man.
Oh yeah. I love the employment attorneys I work with.
Oh really?
Tons of fun stories.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Our attorney is never really happy. We saw her at Aspen Spring Conference, and she was like, and another thing, she always does the presentations because she's just been in education law for such a long time. I don't know any happy education law attorneys. Like they're just a little spicy. Like don't do these things. So
Yeah. It's gotta get stern, you know?
yeah, thought you liked sectional meetings. Sorry, we were just talking about that. That's fine. I was like, you got a key to my office? And she's like, no, I have a key to the main door. I'm like, forget it. Got you. Tomorrow we'll sort them, hole punch them, and start filing them. So they'll be there in a new bunch of them. I know, right? Running down the street. No, I said it's a little crazy. I'm with you on that. I'm trying to change the website so I'm making this. I nailed that. Yeah, I was gonna present that one. I went to the and like, hey, I know it's germane for HR because it's a job description, but I was constantly in her department, so I was like, if you want to, we'll have a handful tonight. So they was here, so I was like, okay, I just wanted to make sure that there was that. I pulled up the original job description, I was gonna provide the context, so I didn't want to do one page, like, these are the parts that are specifically different, that'll be aligned with the job aspects. Is there anything else worth mentioning? Because that's the radio.
Yeah, I think it's going okay.
I just think of how many times I changed my
It was looking like it was very serious.
right? Like, I feel like my own accommodation ended up being a down. Because I changed my major so many times. Yeah, so I was like, okay, like, I'm like,
On the other paper.
and I look at it, right? Like,
Yeah, because I was doing that, but it would just
Item 5, call to the public. Was there any request to address the board?
No, none.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 6, board presentation, bond and override future in Osborne School District.
Good evening. Just some full disclosure, Dr. Robert was prepared to present the board presentation tonight, so I'm filling in, but I may defer any questions you have that I'm not fully aware of, and we'll circle back with those from him at a later time. But, this is not this item, if you guys want to pull up the board page. It's the bond, the bond and override future. It's just a board page. So it's hard, it's kind of hard to imagine, but it's that time already where it's time for Osborne to kind of gear up and start preparing for our override renewals. And also anytime we're looking at going out to the voters with possible election, also looking at those capital needs again and looking at, does it also make sense to be considering future bond projects and planning for future bonding as well. And so Dr. Robert and I have engaged with Paul Ulan. You guys may remember Mr. Ulan from previous override campaigns with the district and his work on those through primary consultants. And so he's kicking off his efforts in preparing for the possibility, potential of going out to our voters and calling for the election for the renewal of our maintenance and operations override this fall. And so that effort kicks off with him doing some community surveying and polling of the community to see where those current support and interests of the community lie in continuing that support of that override renewal. And so that's what's we're at the beginning stages right now. He's completed a draft of what those survey questions will look like, and those surveying, polling of the community will kick off here at the later half of April and into the beginning parts of May, with a presentation to the board at the May meeting of what the results were of that community survey, as well as at the May meeting, we plan to also bring forth the additional pieces and bring forward a potential recommendation to the board at that time to call for an election. Part of the timeline that's important to this is this is happening in year 4 of our current M&O override timeline structure. And part of that is because we have up until year 5 that's still fully funded. And while we fully anticipate having as much strong support from our community as we've seen in past elections, most districts it's prudent to go out in year 4, just on the off chance that it's not successful, that you still have one more full year, your 5th year fully funded, before your override begins to phase out. In Osborne, our M&O override funds a lot of our major initiatives, such as music and arts and those electives, as well as full-day kindergarten and a lot of those other things that are very, very important to those priorities of Osborne. And so really in Osborne's best interest to go out in year 4 to be safe. Going out in year 4 also allows us, as we start to look at future projections within potential capital override, our DAA, District Additional Assistance Override renewals, and possibility of future bonding project capital needs that may be out there to then be able to do those maybe in the next year or future years, so that we're only going to the voters with one thing on the ballot for the upcoming year is the plan at this point. Are there any questions?
Say that again. The plan would be what? Only to go with one or the other on the ballot?
Well, we were going to go with one item on the ballot for the upcoming year as a possibility. So that's where we're at in the planning stages for that at this time. Not really wanting to go for like what they call the trifecta. The more questions you have on the ballot, sometimes you lower sometimes your successful passage rate. And so overrides and override renewals have a much higher historical support rate just in the Maricopa County and statewide than if you start to couple them with other bonding or capital override renewals. You never know, but M&O override is usually more favorable when presented to the voters than capital project needs.
Yeah, I mean, this district has been wonderful in terms of the voters supporting both bonds and overrides in an overwhelming way. Hard to get anybody to agree, 70% of people to agree on anything, but they, more than I think 70% agreed, you know, the last election or the last couple of elections. So I say let's go for the gusto with what we need as a district. That's
Well, there's some other factors that went into, you know, decisions, and and Dr. Robert and I sat down with Mr. Yulan and talked through those. We've also met with the district's financial advisor, Stiefel, and you'll see my presentation on our tax rate projections towards the end of the meeting, which Stiefel helped prepare. And so there's some other factors that go into that. One, we have to look at our bonding capacity. We also have to look at our current schedule of debt service, and so we'll get to that towards the end of the meeting. So there's some other factors that went into, is now the right time to go back out for all three? We don't feel that it is. Not just from a bonding capacity or even from what you'll see in tax rate projections, but just based on need, right? We always want to be really good stewards of our community's resources that they've entrusted us with, and don't feel like there's a need in this year to go back out for all three. We still have bond cash available to us from the last issuance that we're still completing those projects on, and so timing-wise, there's other reasons that went into that. This year, our efforts and focus will be on the M&O override renewal.
got it. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Go ahead, Elenia.
This is not like against Mr. Yulin, or I just need clarification. How and when did we decide, maybe I just don't remember, that we were going to hire Mr. Yulin and his services for the polling?
So Mr. Yulin comes to us recommended from other districts, as well as his past decades of experience here in Osborne in our past election campaigns. And he's also procured under a co-op contract. So he's currently on a 1 GPA contract that we've piggybacked on. So that contract has been vetted for compliance with procurement. The cost of those services do not require a formal bidding to be done. And so those awards do not come before the board for approval. Anything below that $100,000, which this is significantly lower than that, doesn't require approval by the board for that award.
Thank you. This is it. Yes, Mr. Yulin, like, I know we worked with him for years, and he's a trusted member of our community. I just wanted to understand how the process works, since there's just an assumption that we're going to be using him for pulling in the rest of, you know, our bond and override stuff. Wasn't sure if there's an actual process that allows other consultants for us to like review them and hire them if there's an option, but I just think
We can take that into consideration, and I'll take that back to Dr. Robert, Ms. Aguilar, for consideration as we move into possibility of future years. Right now, we've already secured his services, and we're already down that planning path, and he's ready to begin conducting those polling and surveys of the community for this year. Just kind of give you an idea, he has a process of randomly selecting who he calls in the community and reaches out to complete. The target is to complete 400 community surveys over the next several weeks. And then he'll bring that data back and present it to the board at the May meeting. Starting out, kind of so you understand kind of the flow of how that, it's roughly about 20 to 30 questions, starting out with some kind of generic questions in regards to state of Arizona, funding for public schools in general, and then drills down to Osborne-specific questions around our M&O renewals, and also around our program offerings and those pieces, and then wraps up with some of those identifier questions, so that then he's able to really disaggregate that data when he presents it back to the board and looking at, you know, age of voter, did they vote in the last election, all of those different pieces. Any other questions?
So then we would expect an action item in the May meeting, if that is the administration's recommendation.
Yes, if the administration's recommendation is to call for an election, then that will be an action item at the May meeting.
Thank you very much. Anything else? Number 7, administrative reports. Are there any questions about the administrative reports? I have a couple of questions. Noticed that a couple of our staff members went to the NIET conference in March, and appreciate the summary. Wondering if there's anybody who attended who might want to just comment on what learnings or what did they, some of the valuable information or learnings that they gained from the conference, and want to share with the board and the community. And I know I'm just calling people out now, so. All right, Mr. Martin, yay.
Well, they say everything's bigger in Texas, and so is their breakfast. So,
Okay.
it was just a wonderful experience to be around such like-minded educators and just learn more. One, about the new TAP rubric, which will be rolling out next year, as well as they had something called like cluster in a bubble and TLT in a bubble, where we got to witness as spectators like an ideal TLT meeting, which is like TAP leadership team meeting, where they acted it out. Well, I guess it wasn't acting, but they acted it out, and then they would do step outs and say like, here's an important part, and here's why they did this, here's why they asked this question. And it was just super valuable, as especially a new school leader, to attend that trip, and it was wonderful. So,
Okay, well, thank you.
yeah.
I appreciate you stepping up. Dr. Woodland? Hi. Regarding the retention rates, 83% for teachers, remind me, is that like standard? Is that common? I think I've heard this number before, but I couldn't recall if that's sort of normal for the district in terms of retention.
I will tell you, from what I could deduce between my HR peers and myself, that is a normal rate. There's usual attrition and so forth as it pertains to Osborne in years past. Based on the reports that I could find in our board reports that are posted, as well as those that are archived, I do not know that that's ever been quantified in that way.
Okay.
As such, I will slightly pivot and stare in the direction of both Colleen and Abby. Do either of you know?
I appreciate the way the information was presented and the report. I appreciate that. And yeah, if you need to get back to me later, that's to Dr.
I can absolutely do
I'm
that.
just curious to see whether that's a sort of we're in normal territory, or whether it's high or low.
Absolutely. I can follow up with you.
Okay, thank you.
Since they broke eye contact with me.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
And then Colleen, on the budget committee, the way the survey was presented, it was hard for me to digest, kind of like, because it was like everyone had different priorities. But if I'm reading it right, the top concern from that polling was compensation for retention of staff. Is that right?
Yes,
All right.
there were similarities between the community members and the parent responses and the staff responses. They did not necessarily have the same top 3 priorities, but compensation and benefits for retention of staff was in the top 3 of both.
Okay.
Of current staff, yeah, retention of current staff. One of the other important notes was recruitment of highly qualified staff.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Any other questions regarding the administrative reports? All right. Okay, we will transition to the agenda item number 8, the action items. And first up is the audit report for fiscal year 2020-2021.
So this is the formal action resulting from the work study that we had several week and a half ago, where we went over the audit reports in detail with the board. So this is just the recommendation for action. The board has to officially approve accepting the fiscal year 2021 reports.
Colleen, one second. It looks like we're having audio issues with Yelenia.
Okay.
Yelenia, are you on the phone?
I am the video over a minute delayed and I can barely hear, like it was like, it sounds like the typing.
I'm not sure, I mean, I think only,
I'm gonna hang up and call back, see if that makes a difference.
okay, let's wait a second for her to call back.
When it started, Osborne School District.
Okay, and I saw your note about the video feed is delayed about a couple minutes, so I think that's probably normal. Okay, yep. All right, let's try again. Agenda item A, audit report.
Yes, so this is the official formal action. The board is required to officially approve, accept the audit reports that were covered at the work study earlier this month. Again, this is the 2021 fiscal audit. And this is new this year per legislative changes during last legislative session, that this now requires a roll call vote of board members.
Roll call vote. Okay, that's new. And I guess before we proceed with the roll call vote, just want to clarify that we spent significant amount of time at the work study going over the audit report, asking questions and reviewing it. So although it looks like we are just going to vote on it, presumably, we have provided oversight and asked questions about it. So with that, I will ask Ms. Nye to call the roll, and we'll take the ayes and the nays on the motion to adopt the audit report for fiscal year 2020-2021.
Mr. Peralta?
Real quick, I think you need a motion and a second first, and
all
then
right.
the.
So I move that we approve the audit report for fiscal year 2020-2021.
I second.
All right, has motion been made and seconded? Let's take the roll.
Mr. Peralta?
Aye.
Ms. Aguilar?
Aye.
Ms. Corbin? Aye.
Mr. Ermis?
Aye.
Mr. Flamon?
Aye. Motion carries. All right, thank you very much.
I'm the next one, so I'm just hanging out.
All right, the next one is the approval of the cooperative purchasing agreement with NAU and the district.
Yes, so as one of those items that was identified that we want to strengthen procedures in as a result of the audit was our student data, our student information system, and our state reporting of membership and attendance. And so this is part of that action plan. So ETC through NAU is a purchasing consortium, but they provide services and supports specifically in a wide range of areas, but we're going to specifically be using them to support our student information systems, our data transactions, state reporting to ADE around student membership and attendance. They provide training for our staff. They provide small amounts of strategic support hours, as well as they're available for larger, possible projects that may come up that we want to procure with them, specifically if we have needs come up outside of that. But they're really going to be focusing on like a train the trainer model for us. So kind of having one point contact person for the district, who is our student information system data coordinator, and will be kind of relaying knowledge and going over refinement of procedures with that person, and then that'll be then pushed out to our end users at a sites that are completing those day-to-day transactions. Feel like this is a really, really great service. I have used this consortium and these services in previous districts that I've been a part of. Know them to provide a really, really high quality program of support, as well as data security being through NAU. They're very, very mindful of that. and have larger staff. Obviously, we have a team of one data coordinator. They have a much larger staff that's really able to help with those training and like knowledge handoffs for smaller, medium-sized districts such as ourselves. They also have a very, very reasonable $500 annual membership fee to access these services and supports, which is amazing.
Sounds wonderful. I move that we approve the cooperative purchasing agreement with NAU's Education Technology Consortium.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yelenia? Thank you. Motion carries. All right. The next item is item C, approval of travel for Luis Peralta to attend ASBA Summer Leadership Institute in Flagstaff, Arizona. This is requested that this and the next item be put in the regular agenda. For transparency's sake, I don't think it's controversial or it's going to be an issue for our board members to engage in professional development, but wanted to make it sort of just more transparent as to what we are doing, especially if we're traveling out of the county. So I don't think there's a presentation or anything. So
I move that we approve the travel for Mr. Peralta to attend the ASBA Summer Leadership Institute in Flagstaff.
I second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item is approval for travel for Yelenia Aguilar to attend the LAO 39th Annual Conference in Chicago in June of 2022.
I move that we approve the travel for Elenia Aguilar to attend the NALEO 39th Annual Conference.
I second that. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Motion carries. All right. Look forward to hearing about the conferences when you guys get back. The last one is recommendation to approve early childhood school psychologist job description.
It is I again. Good afternoon or evening, board president, members of the board, colleagues, friends, community members. I'm going to be speaking to this particular agenda item, which is reflected in your board packet as agenda item 8E. So this is, for some additional context, this is not a fiscal ask. This will be a combination of the position of a current part-time psychologist who will be retiring from Osborne, as well as a combination of funding from a psychologist intern who's completing their degree program and transitioning to a different position here in, well, not a different position, but a full-time position here within the district. So I thought that would be primary to provide some context in that regard. So it's not a fiscal ask. This is being brought to you in alignment with policy GCA for professional staff positions, meaning it has to be brought to you. The existing funding sources this would come from include both M&O as well as Title I and Title IV that would be for this particular person's positionality. When you go to the first page of the job description, the early childhood school psychologist position is a combination of the existing school psychologist position as well as some additional points that were added. So for your own knowledge, the changes that are made to the position include the title. This is specific and unique to early childhood. The employment status is reflected as part-time, which is a shift as well. The inclusion of early childhood psychologists in the position summary, that last sentence, which reads, the early childhood psychologist helps to identify and notify families and children for screening, early intervention, and assessment as appropriate within the community, is the addition or a new aspect to the job description. When you look under the job responsibilities, the last two bullets are also new, which is a difference from the existing school psychologist position. It reflects that this person will be responsible for facilitating partnerships and regular communication between families as well as state agencies, including but not limited to the Arizona Department of Economic Security, the Arizona Department of Child Safety, and Arizona Department of Education, And then the final bullet refers to carrying out duties for early intervention and child find screenings in coordination with the district team. So those are the two new items under the job responsibilities. As it pertains to the job requirements or knowledge of, you'll see the final 5 bullet points are new. So this particular person is going to be asked to have context or knowledge of the Arizona Early Intervention Program, the Arizona Department of Economic Security, the Department of Developmental Disabilities, the Arizona Department of Education, specifically ECE, and Exceptional Student Services, as well as the child find requirements and responsibilities that will be germane to a particular position. That concludes the new items as it pertains to this particular part-time early childhood psychologist role. And those are the distinctions from the existing school psychologist position that you all approved last calendar year.
Any questions about the agenda item?
So it sounds like this role is for the whole district. They kind of, this person will kind of go from school to school and work with all of our schools. Is that correct?
In regards to early childhood education, yes. Mhm.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So it is recommended that the governing board approve the new job description for the early childhood school psychologist if there aren't any additional questions, comments, or concerns.
I move that we approve the early childhood school psychologist job description.
I second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Eleni? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
The motion carries. Right, item 8F, the tax rate projections.
Okay. So Stiefel wasn't able to be with us tonight. They had conflicting board meetings that they needed to be at for multiple clients that they're
Well, which
helping.
board meeting did they go to?
Right. So they did help in preparing the numbers and running some projections, but I'll be speaking to you tonight and kind of going over not just tax rate projections, but it really ties into what we started the meeting with in the board presentation around timelines of what capacity do we have, what's our timeline currently that we're on for our current M&O override, our capital override, and we'll get into those other pieces. So looking at, and if you're either following along there, looking at page 3 of their presentation, this highlights the increase and change in our assessed values over time. And so looking all the way back, starting with 2012, 2013, gives the limited, net limited assessed values, or what we refer to as our NAV values over a good 10-year history. But focusing in on the right 2 columns there, I know that's really, really small. Is there a way that we can blow that up just a little bit? No?
While you're doing that, Colleen, this wasn't in our packet. Could you email this out to us
Yes.
later on, whenever you get to it this week?
Yes, we can be
Thank
sure and send that out. So looking at those far right 2 columns there for current year, 21-22, and then estimated growth for 22-23. And so you'll see there the February abstract number is what we really go off of to base projections on. The August numbers are important though, because the August numbers are what the actual community member, that tax levy, is assessed on based on the August values. But the February values are what we use to project and plan for those tax rates. And so projecting growth, you'll see that there was quite a bit of growth in that February abstract from 2021 to 21-22. Almost 100,000 there in that growth. And then just note that that's not 100,000. This is, that's significantly more than that. I believe that key is actually based on $1 million. So, and then looking at the next page there, which for them in their report is page 6. It's actually, I'll just, okay. It's, yeah. I cut page is out, so I'm going off of the actual page numbers at the bottom. So for page 6, this one I like to highlight, again, this shows estimated growth in our current assessed values from this year, looking at estimated growth for the 22-23 school year. And then also shows the breakdown of where that property value is originating from. So you see, for Osborne, we're being in the kind of urban setting in north central Phoenix here. The majority of our property tax values come from commercial and industrial. There is a 1.8, 1.9% of agricultural or vacant land space. Don't see as much here in Osborne as you see in other areas because we're pretty much landlocked, our district, with our boundaries. And so it's primarily made up of about 37, we're anticipating that jump to 39% in residential, owner-occupied properties, and then the other 57% made up in commercial and industrial. Important to note that that helps Osborne. You know, when we're thinking and planning of going out to voters and going out for override renewals, that really helps us because a significant portion of our assessed value is in that commercial and industrial. And so when we look at what does this rate cost our average taxpayer, our average homeowner, this makeup really helps that number where our residential community members are not shouldering a significant burden of our local tax rate. So the next page here, looking at this, shows the historical tax rate levies broken out by what we had in place for levies in those years. So you'll notice there were 3 different levies in place, looking at the blue, the red, and the orange. Those were in place up until 1718, and then you'll notice in that 1819 column we added in a gray, and that's the first time that the district had that capital override, what we refer to as the district additional assistance override. And layering that in. One of the things that I like to point out in this is, if you'll notice the stability in those tax rates in those last 4 years since we've had these four rates. We have our primary rate, and then we have our override, M&O override rate, we have our bond rate, and then we have that new capital override rate. And consistency, not just overall in total, but consistency within each of those groups. That's one of the goals that we really work towards in our financial planning and long-range planning for the district, is really looking at consistency for our constituents in their local tax rates. The next page. This page highlights our current debt service on our outstanding bonds. And so you'll see that we have a few years left. That first group is our 2016 refunding bonds. And so we have a couple years left of debt service there. And then you'll notice that in the 2 middle groups, which was part of our $50 million bond project that was split into 2 or 3 different issuances, but our main 2 issuances there that happened in 2018 and 2019, our debt service currently runs through 2038. The yellow is important to note, though, because those are what we refer to as when the bonds become callable or they become refundable. That's also part of what goes into our planning and long-range planning around when does it make sense to call those bonds, possibly look at refunding them if interest rates line up at that point in time. But we would not be able to refund any sooner than 2028 based on those yellow highlights in the debt service plan currently.
What do you mean by refunding the bonds?
The best way that I can explain refunding bonds is similar to like refinancing your mortgage. So you would, it's not a new issuance, but you are basically consolidating debt and looking for a lower interest rate by going back out if the timing is right. The next page shows that same debt service schedule broken out between interest and principal. Principal being the blue and then interest being the red. So you can see as a typical debt service schedule, you have the majority of your interest loaded into the front of your debt service year payments. And then by the end of that 2038, the majority of those payments are paying down principal at that point. The next slide highlights our bonding capacity. These different rows go over the formula, but the important number is the total at the bottom there. So as of this past September, our bonding capacity was just over 34 million. It's estimated right now, as of July 1st, to jump up to 39, just under 40 million. And then by September, that number will grow again, and it's estimated at close to 42 million in bonding capacity. That number is important as we look to then those long-range plans of our capital needs for the district and what is our bonding capacity. It's also important as we look at wanting to maintain a stable tax rate for our constituents as well.
Colleen, what was the bonding capacity back when the bonds were issued back in, what, 17?
I don't know the exact number, but it was over 75 million at the time we started planning, and we only went out for 50.
Okay.
Because it's based on need, right? It's not based on how much in total can we bond for. It's really based on our capital needs. And again, that's that stewardship and that trust with our community that we're only going to ask for what we need, not necessarily our full capacity every time.
Okay. And do you, totally okay if you don't have this right now, but like how, I see the projection, you know, we're at 34. I guess what I'm trying to figure out is how much has the value, the property values in the district increased since 2017? So
let's go back to that slide because you can see
it's
that
on
on
that,
that
okay.
first slide that we were on. You can see the growth over that 10-year period. So on this, and I know that's really, really small, but let me go back here on mine. So from 2017, our February abstract, so our NAV, was at 495,000. Granted, that's million.
Yeah.
And then compared to now, that's almost doubled. And we're projecting 22-23 to be 887 million.
Okay, thank you.
Important to note that bonding capacity continues to grow throughout the year as debt service is paid off. So bonding capacity is a formula based on not just your current property values, but it's also based on your reduced by your outstanding bond debt service payments. So as we continue to pay down bonds, our bonding capacity then continues to then increase and go back up. So this number will continue to grow throughout the year as our debt service payments are broken into 2 payments per year. We have payments on July 1st and on January 1st. So every 6 months, our bonding capacity is growing as debt service is continually being paid off.
And that's that less the outstanding Class B bond. That's
Yes.
the amount that's outstanding, the 48 million.
Yes.
Okay.
And you'll see just that change from 48 million is what it was in September to 43 after that July 1st payment.
Okay.
This page is the important page when we look at tax rates, and this is so small, I think we're gonna probably need to blow it up and then just kind of slide as we go through the columns. This is Stifel's favorite page to talk about, and I think it's because it has the most data on it, honestly. It's got 17 different columns on one page. This is important because it shows the tax rates and the projected tax rates for all of our levies. So starting with those first 5 columns are looking at the current bonds that are outstanding, layering in those debt service payments we just talked about, and what that projected tax rate will be to the local constituent. So again, we're looking for consistency in that. One of the highlights here is you'll notice there's a significant decrease in that projected tax rate on our bonds in 24-25, where we're trending around that $1.40, $1.35, $1.35, $1.40. It significantly drops down to just over 80 cents, and that's due to those debt service payoffs, and primarily due to those, we have 3 years left of those 2016 refunding bonds. As soon as those are completely paid off, you see that tax rate go down. That's where we have then opportunity to your earlier question, Ed, we have opportunity in those years to then plan for capital needs that are present, which we will have capital needs, as we always do, for our facilities, renovations and improvements, to then layer in potentially another bond authorization with our voters and then go back out for issuance without having it to ask it as a tax increase, because there's capacity there to then just maintain the current tax rate that they've already been experiencing. And that's all part of those decisions and planning that goes into what we're considering and looking at. And it's really important, I feel like for me, it's always one of my top priorities is that consistency in the tax rate. If we slide over, you'll see that columns 10 through 16 there, if we can get them all to fit, maybe not, but that's okay. So this is our current schedule with our M&O override. Really trying, again, you'll see that there's that consistent estimate of 45 cents for the M&O override on the tax rate, as well as consistency right around 29.30 cents in the capital override. But you'll see that it's currently phased, it's got the phase out built in. So if we don't go out for a renewal for our M&O override, that phase out there begins in tax year 24-25 as well, which is the same year that the bond tax rate dips as well. Based on the M&O override phase out. So that's all part of that planning of when do we go out for M&O renewal and then maintaining that consistency. If we scroll all the way over, you'll see this is the projected total, the primary rate, and then the total combined tax rate between our primary and secondary rates. And again, it's that consistency that we're looking for. And so really looking to go out for that M&O renewal before the phase out begins, so it doesn't impact program delivery, instructional offerings for our students, but also then that consistency where the taxpayers don't see this happening year to year in their tax rate. We want it to maintain a fairly consistent number in total, and that starts with maintaining consistency within each one of these components that make up that total. The next item shows, and we may have to zoom out a little bit on the next page here. This shows that, another way of looking at it shows the timeline for the M&O override. So you see this is on the left-hand side there is the actual timeline that we have currently with those phase outs noted in years 6 and 7. And then the recommended new or hypothetical timeline of going out for renewal of the M&O override this November, and that would start a new 7-year timeline with phase out beginning in years 6 and 7, which would then phase out beginning in 28-29, 29-30, if renewal wasn't sought again at that point. Down, if we scroll down, wanted to highlight in the blue box there at the bottom of this page. Can we scroll just to the blue? Thank you. These are estimates at this point based on our current projections. So if these are 3 different scenarios that we're currently looking at and what that impact would be to our residential taxpayers for the M&O override renewal going out to the voters this November. So we're running some different scenarios. We have to work on different scenarios for what we're projecting our revenue control limit to be, which is what the 15% M&O override is based on. And so these scenarios are built off of how much future growth do we anticipate in student count? How much future inflation funding do we expect in those upcoming years from the state? In making sure that we have a really, our best projection, even though those are unknowns, when we go out to the voters. And so these are, you can see it's anywhere from, right now we're looking at anywhere from $67 to $70 is the estimated annual tax amount that would be, and that's based on our average homeowner, average home value in Osborne.
Which is, do you know that number?
We do not know that number yet, so these were based on last year's average, which was right around $150,000. And remember, this is
the tax value.
that's the tax value, not the actual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Took me, I was like, what?
Yeah, yeah. The next page goes through the same schedule, looking at then a hypothetical timeline for renewal of the capital override. And so you see the capital override there is on its own current 7-year actual. There is no phase down within the capital override where there is within the M&O. And then aligning, hypothetically, we could go out for election for renewal in 2023 there and start a new 7-year timeline there. The last page kind of goes through the election cycle timeline. And so this kind of goes back to, again, picking up at the beginning of the meeting on the board presentation, where are we at right now? And so right now we're sitting in that March to April timeframe. It's not always necessary to organize an election advisory committee. That's optional. In years where we typically have a new override. So when we were looking at the capital override being new, we definitely put together that election advisory committee and looked at that. One of the other pieces is when you're looking at those bonding and long-range capital plans and pieces like that. But it's not necessarily required for every single time you go out. Looking at May to June is when you would receive a report. And so that's where we're targeting the May meeting for the summative and that report data from the community surveying and polling that's going to be happening over the next month. As far as governing board action and items that the governing board's involved in happen in that summer timeframe from May to July. That's when we look to possibly call for election. We're determining those, we're finalizing those amounts and those scenarios that I just showed you for inclusion in the voter information pamphlets. And then June and August is when the district leadership is really looking at finalizing those voter information pamphlets and preparing them to then go out to the voters in September. And then early voting would begin in October, and then of course election day in November. And you can kind of see the cycle in the possibility in that hypothetical scenario of going out then for the capital override in the 2023 election year, you would see this continuation of this timeline. You won't really see that pause. So as soon as we have election day in November, then we'll be right back in front of the board in January, March, and looking at, again, election requirements and projections, and then going through a community polling and surveying again, and all of those pieces. So this is kind of a continual circle that the district will be on for probably the next good 18, 24 months. Are there any questions?
No, great presentation. Looking forward to what happens next.
Not a question, but a comment of, for the M&O override, I agree that perhaps there's not a need for that advisory committee. I presume this might be where you're headed anyways, or the district is headed anyways, but I would strongly encourage the district to reconvene that group to assess what bonding needs, what needs there are, and so we can, for the bond and capital override, so we can better articulate what those needs are. Because I am with you on that. Just because we can borrow doesn't mean we should, unless there are true needs, which I think there are. We just want to be specific and clear about what those are and be able to communicate that to the community.
And I would just follow up with, the decision hasn't been made to not convene the political advisory committee for this M&O override. It just hasn't been done yet. We're still, the district's role in this process, which is, as you remember, is very separate from that political advisory committee. Our role in the process is we're beginning to survey the community and gauge that interest and support level around those initiatives that the M&O override would be funding through the renewal. It's not to say that the political advisory committee would not be formed to help support the efforts later on that need to happen in actually promoting and getting out there and getting the word out there.
Let me clarify. I guess maybe I was confusing the terms. Whatever campaigning or whatever happens. What I was referring to the committee that assessed what were the true needs of the district, what were the priorities, what projects would be funded with whatever bonding monies came. So that is, I think, an important
Yes.
aspect, not necessarily for the M&O, but for the bonding and any capital overrides, that there is a clear, there's an open and transparent process of how much do we need and what projects are important to the district.
Yes, agreed. And that committee isn't necessarily this type of a
Yeah.
formal identified committee. We, as we have other committees that we form as needs arise, that would be one that would come up at that time.
Any other questions?
No?
Okay. Thank you very much. In light of Dr. Robert's absence and Board Member Aguilar having to drop, I would entertain a motion to table the board development item and just handle that at the next meeting.
I move that we table the board development item.
And is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we will table that and take that back up at a later date. Reflections on the meeting, and I'll start at the end with Mr. Peralta.
I was really happy with, seeing what's going on with the high school. Being that I taught online last year, and it was a struggle, and it was fantastic to hear how well it is going, because it's getting students, especially young students, to be involved online. It's hard. They need that social interaction, but hearing how well they have it going, I'm happy to hear that it's working really well.
Ms. Corbin?
It's just amazing with no, what am I trying to say? No knowledge of the COVID thing. I mean, it was like within 3 days, we had to decide, okay, what we're gonna do, change the whole world. And everybody has just worked so hard together to do those changes that it's just amazing. And like Lisa says, the presentation from the iSchool was really great, because there are so many of you that go over and above what you're required to do. And I just wish the politicians were here and we could lock them up in the closet. Because they have no clue. So anyway.
Yeah, I love the presentation about iSchool. It's certainly something I didn't know as much about before today, so I appreciate that presentation. I'm excited about going back out for M&O override. We certainly have needs there, and I think we have a wonderfully supportive community. I fully expect our neighbors to again support our Osborne schools every time, at least in recent history, as Juan Carlos knows, and that's how we met, helping on some of those campaigns. Our wonderful residents have supported this district, and so, I certainly see the need, especially on the M&O side. So, I want to make sure we ask our community to support that need. I'm excited about that. I see the need also on the capital side coming in, and we talk about things like what we want to do in the future with hopefully expanding early childhood education, in our district. We need space for that. Those are capital needs. We talk about what we want in terms of better shading and transportation, and those things. Those are all needs that. So I'm very excited and supportive of every opportunity that we can go to engage with our community, ask them for more help and support, and I really truly think that they're going to respond again and support our wonderful schools and our teachers.
I echo the comments regarding the celebration at the beginning. I'm glad that we call it points of pride, because I could hear the pride in the presenters for their staff, and the pride, and we have a good team of professionals within the district. So thank you for doing the hard work that you guys do. All right. Are there any future agenda items we want to communicate to the administration?
Not this week for me.
No.
I got one. This came up. I think it was at the last meeting. We had a parent, I think, come and talk at the, if I remember correctly, at the open, call to the public about how we can engage with our neighborhoods and maybe, I don't know what the term he used, you know, some sort of joint use of our kind of fields and school grounds. And this is more of a brainstorming agenda item, I suppose, but how can we leverage our place in our communities? I think of like Montecito, for example. It's got that wonderful, you know, playground area, and that neighborhood doesn't have a park. You know, how can we kind of leverage our space in the community and our green space and open space to connect with the community? You know, and so that parent who asked about, I think it was about Clarendon and Encanto over here, that was Sean, who, you know, everybody knows, he lives right over here. Kind of got me thinking about how we can leverage that at each of our schools. You know, Solana's a good example too. So I'd love to see some kind of workshopping and brainstorming around that.
That's a good point. I have at OMS. I have received a couple of community members. I live near the OMS have asked about accessing the campus and using the track or the basketball courts and that sort of thing. So I welcome that. In terms of agenda items as well, um, I'm interested in seeing what follow up or what more has occurred since there was a member of the public that spoke about traffic around OMS, and sort of I know we're working on different priorities and different programs, but there was some discussion about engaging with OMS as well on traffic. So I'm interested in seeing sort of where that came from. It doesn't have to be a board agenda item. It could be a superintendent report via email. Any other topics?
No?
All right, well, I thank you, everyone, and I will adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.